Yeah, this isn't a 2-disc game. It just has this. Fuck. Why? That's not even a big manual. Why is this box so big? Maybe this one is. I'm wasting time right here, aren't I? Registration card, instruction manual. No, neither of these are particularly large. Alright. Sony just wanted to waste plastic. Tomba 2. I don't know why that isn't with Tomba 1. So unlike the first Tomba, which was all 2D. Well, no, it wasn't all 2D. Character sprites were 2D. Some of the environments were 3D. This is an all polygonal game. It still has the same humor, same charm, same style, so it's still a really good game that I love. Tomb Raider 3. So I guess the only Tomb Raider game I don't have on the original PlayStation is the original, which I'm okay with. Right, here's some obscure shit. Wing Commander 3. So the Wing Commander games were mainly known for their PC releases. So if you notice that's Mark fucking Hamill, because Wing Commander 3 and 4 had like these really in-depth FMV scenes that were like actually really well acted. But basically, Wing Commander 3 and 4 are they're what the fuck am I trying to say? Like space flight simulators, shooting and shit. Oh no, but this won't. That's really cheap. Oh, there's not even art on the inside. I guess you play it mainly for the story, actually. They're fun games, though. I don't remember when I last played them, probably 15 years ago, if not more. So Wing Commander 3, and then Wing Commander 4, which I just mentioned. I think I mainly got these because my uncle was into them. Wing Commander 4 Battle Book, whatever the fuck that is. It's more Mark Hamill, but also Malcolm McDowell. Another disc of Tomb Raider 3 for some reason. Okay. Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen. This is the first game in the Legacy of Kain series. So I have Soul Reaver, but I have that on Dreamcast because that also came on Dreamcast. But none of the other games in the series were like this again, for some reason. This is like a almost top-down, sprite-based action RPG, which was really cool. Final Fantasy Chronicles, which is Final Fantasy IV, and Chrono Trigger, which is not a Final Fantasy game, but I appreciate that it's here because this is the first time that I got to see and play Chrono Trigger. Excellent game, even though it has load times on the PlayStation. I remember seeing like a preview for this in OPM, Official PlayStation Magazine, and thinking, oh, that looks pretty cool. A couple RPGs I never had the chance to play, so it was a cool release. Here's a classic, Castlevania Symphony. Jesus Christ, I got my lisp on tonight. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I can't really do this game justice by saying that it's a great game. I'm sure there are much better in-depth videos that somebody can watch to let you know how awesome of a game that is. Alright, so then Clock Tower. This was the Clock Tower. This was Human Entertainment's polygonal Clock Tower game. So here's how confusing the Clock Tower chronology is. There was Clock Tower on Super Nintendo, which is obviously a 2D sprite game, and then there was this Clock Tower game on PlayStation, which was a completely different game. It probably had a different subtitle in Japan. And then they ported the original Super Nintendo game to PlayStation. So obviously they couldn't call that just Clock Tower, so they called that Clock Tower The First Fear. And then this was, you know what, this was called Clock Tower 2 in Japan, now that I remember it. And because we didn't get the original, we just got it as Clock Tower here. It was fucking, this is the Scissorman. This is a fucking bizarre game. I played through it a bunch to get all the different endings and shit. Like, one playthrough can last only like an hour, but you can play through it a bunch of times. This game is like really pricey online now for some reason. If you look it up, it's like close to $100 for some reason. Resident Evil Survivor, probably the black sheep of the Resident Evil series, at least the original series. There's been some worse games in this since. First-person game. It was Resident Evil Gun Survivor in Japan, and it came with or you could use a gun add-on with it, but when it was released in America, it was shortly after the, the Columbine shooting, and I guess they didn't want to glorify the use of gun, be it plastic or not, so sensitive times, much like today. Put that down. Dino Crisis. Dino Crisis 1, to be exact. I think this came with, a Resident Evil 3 demo. The Dino Crisis series has kind of been lost in the sands of time. I doubt we'll ever see another one. Dino Crisis 1 was very much a survival horror game, directed by Shinji Mikami. So, really in the style of Resident Evil 3, and then Dino Crisis 2 came out. And this wasn't directed by Mikami. Sorry, I forget the director's name. But in my opinion, this is actually a better game. More action-y. But it does a lot of different stuff. Don't get me wrong, Dino Crisis 1 is still a pretty good game. But I prefer Dino Crisis 2. Resident Evil Director's Cut. No, you're not. You're probably thinking to yourself, Brad, you dumbass, you already got this game, which is true, but that was the DualShock Greatest Hit version, and this is the obviously non-Greatest Hits version, so this has the original music, the original soundtrack. So if you want to play the Resident Evil Director's Cut with all the bonus features that the Director's Cut adds, but without the controversial soundtrack, this is the way to play it. And it also comes with a demo disc for Resident Evil 2. So from what I understand, after Resident Evil 1.5 was put on the back burner and they started redeveloping Resident Evil 2 from scratch, basically, they wanted to put something out to kind of be an apology for the wait for Resident Evil 2, so they came out with this. Alien Resurrection. Alright, so Alien Resurrection, garbage movie, but this game is actually pretty badass. It's a first-person shooter, but it does a lot of tricks that you wouldn't think the PlayStation 1 would be able to do. Really atmospheric, really creepy. This was infamously pretty much the first console first-person shooter that used a dual analog stick setup for aiming, strafing, and GameSpot. The review website gave it a shit score for that and kind of made fun of it and said it was garbage, and now it's the industry standard. Spawn the Eternal. This is a fucking weird game. So for some reason, this is a Sony first-person developed and published game. They were really on board that Spawn train. It's a 3D action game without the use of two analog sticks, so you can imagine how rough that is. So when you get in fights, it goes to this 2D fighting game plane. This game gives me a headache, or it used to give me a headache, just because the graphics are so bleh. Tekken 3, no introduction needed there. Legendary game, great fucking game. Ooh, I still have my my Peel Here sticker on there. And then, you have Tekken 3, you gotta go back and get Tekken 2. Not as good as Tekken 3, but, more Tekken's always a good thing. What's not a good thing is, Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. The first Mortal Kombat spin-off game with dreadful FMV acting scenes and even more dreadful 2D gameplay. I must qualify that though by saying that if you do learn how to work around this game's shortcomings, you can beat it and you can somewhat enjoy it, kinda. Crash Team Racing, getting a remake soon. Look forward to that. Great game. Spider-Man 2. So this uses Neversoft's Spider-Man engine, but it wasn't developed by Neversoft. Who made it? Oh, Vicarious Visions. You really reach into the B tier of Spider-Man villains when your fucking title character is Electro. Oh, this should have been with the Japanese games. Virtual Pro Wrestling, the original Virtual Pro Wrestling, which became WCW versus the World. So let me put that with them. Pitfall 3D. Don't remember much about this, except that I think the Pitfall guy is voiced by Bruce Campbell. Don't know why I remember that. Holy shit. This wasn't even intentional. Speaking of Bruce Campbell. Evil Dead, Hail to the King. This is really much a Resident Evil ripoff. I remember it being fucking ridiculously hard because enemies keep respawning. It's a 2-disc game, but a thin case. It's one of these deals, which I hate. Can I do it? Great. I broke it. It was probably already broken because it's a shit case. Alright. South Park Chef's Love Shack. Not so much like a competitive game as it is like a talk show game. So what I remember about this game is my sister and I went to Toys R Us with my grandmother and we got it, and the clerk was like, the cashier was trying to tell my grandmother not to get it for us. Which I know she meant in terms of mature content, but she wasn't wrong. We shouldn't have got it. It sucks. Siphon Filter 2. The X-Files. This is a kind of cool game because it's an FMV game, but it's not awful. It's 4 discs because there's so much video content. Final Fantasy Origins, which is Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy II, which were completely remastered. So it's like kind of buffed versions of the original NES games. And the final piece of that Final Fantasy puzzle, pun intended, Final Fantasy Anthology, which was Final Fantasy V and Final Fantasy VI. So all on PlayStation, you can play all those old original Final Fantasy games except for Final Fantasy 3. Almost done. We got Chrono Cross, sequel to Chrono Trigger. In terms of lore and whatnot, it doesn't have much to do with the game. It's kind of like a spiritual successor. I still liked it though. And kind of wish I saved a better game for last, but Gran Turismo 2. A lot more cars, better graphics, whatever. And that's my PlayStation 1 library. Somehow this video ended up being longer than my PlayStation 4. Fuck me.